A question I've gotten a couple of times is, why this car as opposed to a hybrid car? And I'd like to take a couple of minutes and try and explain my point of view on the internal combustion engine, the gas-based engine, was created in about 1796, give or take. Who actually invented it and how long it actually took to come about, and who got it into production, who got it into a car. Those are slightly debatable, but the point is that someone created an internal combustion engine, an engine that has the ability to compress the gasoline, the petrol that's in it, through a controlled explosion and make a piston extend out. So it's in a chamber and you're using oxygen and fuel with a small controlled explosion to create a piston that goes up and down. So the piston is going up and down like this. And in a simple engine, the earliest version of the engines, you're looking at something that's like a lawnmower engine. It's a two-stroke engine. It has basically the up and down, and that's it. But here it is. It's 200 and something years since that was created, and the actual idea of the internal combustion engine hasn't changed since then, not very much anyway. Now, they've improved on the engine technology, the type of explosion is better, you've gone through these different things with the way they inject fuel into it, the carburetor, all of these things happened along the way to improve on the efficiency of the engine to make it better. But the engine itself is still essentially the same technology that you had back in 1796, as far as the explosion and the pistons moving go. So it's kind of interesting that nothing really changed there. Now, car companies have had plenty of opportunity in that 200 years to come up with something that's better. But part of the problem is they're in the business of selling cars, and they're in it with the oil industry. And the oil industry is trying to make sure that they're selling as much fuel as they can. So there's no real reason for car companies to change their technology or move the needle a lot. They'll move it a little bit, and they always move it a little bit, and it gets better and more efficient and things are better. But to actually change anything doesn't happen very often, and that's why this is kind of interesting. So somewhere along the way in the 1990s or so, several governments around the world, including the United States government, several governments in the European Union, and several others, came up with this idea of, we need to reduce our carbon emissions and we need to reduce the amount of fuel we're using, so we have a lower carbon footprint, we have fewer emissions, we're better for the environment, and we should increase fuel economy. So they came up with this idea to do that. And car companies looked at what the proposal was and decided that the best way to approach that problem was to actually create something that was called a hybrid car. Rather than reinventing the engine and doing something different, they actually just created a hybrid. Now, the benefit to them is, by creating a hybrid, they meet the government standards, whichever country they're working in. They also get a tax break because they're creating something that's more fuel efficient and does reduce emissions. And they're also able to charge more from the customer, so they can pass along a little more cost to the customer, and everybody wins. Well, the car company wins, and in the long run, you do increase efficiency and you do reduce your carbon footprint and the emissions that are out there. Really, the big benefit to you as a consumer, to us as consumers, is that you extend your gas mileage. So instead of getting 30 miles to the gallon, you get 40 miles to the gallon, because along the way, the gas engine is charging up the electric battery, and the electric battery is used to power the car for some period of time. So you're getting the benefit of it, and you're extending your range and getting better gas mileage. But when you move to a fully electric vehicle, you've changed the paradigm. Now I hear companies coming up with, I saw an advertisement for Mobil the other day that said, oh yeah, we're going to come up with something that's going to be an algae-based fuel, and in that algae-based fuel we'll have the ability to cut our carbon emissions, our actual emissions that come out, by 50%. And I thought about it for a second, and I said, wait a minute, you're going to cut your emissions by 50% by using algae? And then it occurred to me that what they're actually doing is they're trying to say that they're going to use the algae in place of gasoline. So they're still using the same basic engine, but going to replace it out. And that's great, but it's not the answer either. Again, it's sort of a hack because you're not really rethinking your engine in any way. You're just saying, hey, we're going to reuse the same engines. And ethanol, again, there's sort of a hack in there because what they're saying is, hey, we want to take corn, we want to break it down and add it to gasoline so that the gasoline can extend further. The problem is the current design of the cars can't burn that ethanol the same way, so you're actually losing some efficiency, though you're actually putting the ethanol in the tank. So it's kind of a funny thing to choose to do, though I guess there's a reason for it, and it has everything to do with some of the government tax breaks that these car companies get and the gas companies get from producing ethanol and putting ethanol in cars. So my problem here is not so much that the car itself with the hybrid and the fact that it has a gas engine and an electric engine is a problem. But It's just taking the same car and not rethinking what we're doing. And that's my problem with all of this. And that's why I'm like, I'm gonna take the leap and go to fully electric and make that leap and say, you know what? I have no more moving parts. I have no more internal combustion engine. I have no more oil. I have no more belts and hoses, those kinds of things. They just don't exist anymore in this car. And I think that's the biggest win in that sense, where you're getting something like that. Now, Tesla may have started something. Maybe it's a revolution, maybe it's an evolution, I don't know. But they've started something, and now it's up to other car companies to follow suit. And this week, we heard about the first company that's actually going to follow suit, and that's the Ford Motor Company. They've created something called the Mustang E something. I can't remember what it's called. But it's a fully electric car that they're going to be producing that'll be in the range of what the Model Y will look like. So when they actually produce the Model Y, it'll be about that size. It's crossover size. So maybe it's about the size of a Ford Escape, give or take. And they're actually going to start mass producing that car and make it available at the end of next year. So now you have a fully electric car that Ford is going to be producing. But Ford also took the additional step of saying, you know what else we're going to do? We're going to build a network of essentially superchargers in different locations, very much like Tesla did with their superchargers. And it's going to be called the Ford E-Charge or something like that, but it's a similar concept where at various intervals you'll have places to charge up your car in a fast charging way. Here we go. This is the point at which the needle actually starts to move. And I'm not talking about the needle that goes to empty. I'm talking about the actual needle that changes the way we think about cars and the paradigm we use when we talk about cars and how these cars work. That's when it's going to start to change, because now there's another car company that's going to invest in an infrastructure that's going to build on the idea of how do we get cars out there and make them available so you can charge in long distances. The electric version of the Mustang will go about 300 miles on a charge, I think they were saying, or 280, somewhere in that range. So it's equivalent to some of the Teslas on the higher end. And they'll have the charging locations at various places, and they were talking about how they're going to have it set up so you can just pull in and charge just like you do in the Tesla, where you just plug in and start charging and drive off. That's huge. The fact that there's another car company that's going to do that, I think, really starts to change everything about the way we think about these electric cars. That may be the next big thing. Maybe the Tesla is just the starting point, and the next couple of cars do it better. And I heard that that Elon Musk actually came out after Ford's announcement and said, hey, that's terrific. Welcome to the club. We're very happy to have you. And I believe him, because this is about the revolutionary step and the evolutionary steps that we're taking to get there. You know, it's time for the engines to start changing. It's time for us to start thinking about cars differently. There was no incentive for car companies to do this before. They never changed the engines because there was never any profit motive. There was never any reason for it. Never fool yourself. Car companies, every company, they're in it for profit. That's the main reason that companies get into business is to make a profit. So if they can make a profit by doing something, they're going to do it. So here's an opportunity. They see how well Teslas are selling. They see how there's a demand for electric cars. They're like, you know what? We could get on this train and we could actually do something more than we're doing today and actually create a fully electric car. And they are. And I think that's really amazing. So it's getting there. It's steps. You know, it's all these steps we take to get to somewhere that's better than what we had before. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I thought this was kind of interesting, an interesting thought about the whole hybrid concept. I think the hybrids were a nice evolutionary step along the way. I think it's time for us to make that next leap and go to fully electric, or plug in hybrids completely and forget about the ones that are powered by the gas engine and, you know, that sort of thing. And let's move on and start talking about the next big thing in the car business, and how we get to the next evolutionary step, and how we get to the point of having these charging stations everywhere. You know, Ford's got one, Tesla's got one, the EV Go has got one, then there's others that are being built. I don't know that we can sustain all those. Maybe we can, because, you know, certainly there's different companies that produce gasoline that sell them on every street corner. So I don't know why it couldn't, but I don't know if it can. I don't know if there's enough of a market yet. But if it can, that's great, and we'll be somewhere. We'll be doing something really cool. And, you know, you can pass around different places, and hopefully at some point there'll be this interoperability, so you can use one over another. Maybe you have to pay a fee or something to use it, but who knows? Maybe it'll work out that way at some point. So that's my thought about hybrids and electrics, and, you know, I'm glad I got my electric and I'm very happy with it, and, you know, maybe you'll check one out too. Finally, I didn't show you how the passenger seat reclines, so let's take a look at that a minute. Whoa, here we go. Going back, here we go. This goes pretty far back. Okay, I think it actually goes a little bit further than the driver's seat. When I looked at it from the other side, it looked like it was much further back. It's still pretty far down though when I look at it. It's still got a pretty good recline to it. So this is what it looks like in the passenger seat. So it's a pretty good recline too. And again, the view is great. Let's take a look at that. So this is the view. I'm just sitting in the passenger seat, and I've just reclined, and this is what it looks like. It's a nice view from here. It's very pleasant. I really enjoy this view. You know, this panoramic roof is really pretty nice. I had a thought about what web pedal driving reminds me of, and it's the Tomorrowland Speedway at Disney World or Autopia at Disneyland. Imagine you're Bob Gurr, put a lawnmower engine inside a polycarbonate shell of a car that's like a go-kart, and he has a pedal that you press to make the car accelerate. And when you take your foot off of that accelerator, it makes the car stop. While it works differently, the principle is the same as what one-pedal driving is like. As you can see in this example as we're driving along, we're pushing the gas pedal right now, and in a moment we're going to take our foot off of the gas pedal, and it's going to make the car stop. We can do it again, and we're going to press it down one more time and make it stop again, but that's the principle of one-pedal driving.